last years I've been looking into the socialist women's movement in Sweden. That means from the end of the 19th century till 1920. That's been the period I've been particularly interested in. I could have also talked about another project that I've been doing with Rebecca, who is also here somewhere, which is about the communist women's movement that started in 1917. But for this particular occasion, I've chosen to speak about the socialist women's movement. By the end of the 19th century, women started a struggle. The struggle was to mobilize women for the socialist women's movement. Women were calling other women. They called them to meetings. They tried to create places where they together could discuss legal rights, childcare, sexuality, suffrage, ownership, and women's representation in society, all based on a socialist ideology and perspective. The women used posters in order to mobilize other women. I will show you some of these posters. Subject: universal suffrage. Anyone interested in universal suffrage is invited to the discussion. Subject: women join the meeting. We send a special invitation to all the women living out here. Men can also attend if space allows. Subject: women join the meeting. We send a special invitation to all the women living out here. Men can also attend if space allows. Subject: contours of women's history. The Borås Women's Club will organize a large party in the People's House. At 7 p.m., there will be social with music, singing, reading, and dancing. All profits go to the Workers' Commune Library. I should say that all these posters are between the end of the 19th century, the early 20th century, up till 1919. Subject: the women of the French Revolution. After the lecture, there will be a social event for the members of the association. Coffee, dancing may take place. Subject: proposal for a new marriage law concerning conditions of ownership between married couples. Because the issue is very important for all women, especially working class wives, interested women should take the opportunity to gain information before the law is passed by Parliament. Questions after the lecture. Subject: protection for the privileged or protection for the little man. Working class women, come to the meeting. Let nothing stand in your way. Subject: Women and the Work for Progress. Working class women, come to the meeting. Let nothing stand in your way. Subject, what women want. Large meeting arranged. You are invited to come in great numbers. Women, join the meeting. Subject, gender slavery. Subject, domestic workers' conditions during times of crisis. Domestic workers, a public meeting is arranged. This was a poster from 1917. Within the Socialist Women's Movement, there were certain prominent, it's the 3 o'clock, it's Monday, the flight alarm, I assume, or? In the Socialist Women's Movement, there are certain prominent so-called agitators, or women who kind of traveled. They're calling for women to join, who traveled tirelessly around in the country to mobilize women and men for the socialist struggles. One of these women is the well-known Petra Dahlström. She travels from one village to the other to hold lectures and also to discuss with women and to mobilize women. And I show you a series, one of these lecture series, which is from 1912, March. And I just read the first posters and then you will understand the rest. So Petra Dahlström, lecture held in Ramsjö, Friday the 1st of March. May no one be utebli, may no one stay at home from this popular speaker's lecture. 3rd of March in Delsbo. 4th of March in Färila. 5th of March in Lås. 8th of March. 9th of March. 10th of March. 10th of March. 11th of March. 12th of March. 13th of March. 14th of March. 17th of March. Another talk, 17th of March. 19th of March. 20th of March. 21st of March. 22nd of March. 23rd of March. Those of you who are not Swedish, I would like to tell you that all these places are really small towns, villages in Sweden. 24th of March. That's where her journey ends. When I looked into the Socialist Women's Movement, I was particularly interested in the period when the movement emerged, and when all political activities that women were involved in could be seen as potentially subversive. As women did not become full citizens and were not regarded as legal political subjects till 1921, or rather the law was passed in 1919. In 1921, women were for the first time allowed to vote. A question that I took as a point of departure is how individuals navigate politically when they are not regarded as political subjects. In 1904, the first issue of Morgonbris is being published. In English, the magazine is called Morgonbris. It is published by women within the frame of the Socialist Women's Movement. The magazine is published once a month. In the magazines, socialism is discussed from a women's perspective. And I again want to remind you that this is a time when women did not have full citizens' rights and were not political subjects. The magazine is a place where women can make their voices heard. They can act out their agency, and they use the magazine to mobilize other women and create solidarity between women in Sweden and elsewhere. It consists of longer reflecting articles, shorter articles, readers' voices, articles and adverts for cooperative companies that are run by women, travelogues, minutes, information about political processes and laws, but also translated articles by other feminists from other countries, among other things, the Russian feminist Alexandra Kollontai. In Morgonbris, you can read, among other things, quote, "Solidarity should be for everyone, not only for our comrades on the shop floors, but also the wife at the sewing machine and the daughter in the factory, as we all share a common aim." Unquote. And another one, quote, "If women were participating, the last decade of ideological struggles have radically changed parts of society, not the least concerning women's position in public life. Day by day, the idea that women are equal to men win new grounds. The opponents have had to withdraw from one position after the other." To me, these articles bear witness to the fact that these women fought for a society that was not yet. They fought for changes that were in the future, that were to take place in the future. They fought for a society that they would never see themselves. The fight for suffrage was only one thing that on their agenda, because it was seen as a tool to accomplish other structural changes. This is the big difference between the Socialist Women's Movement and the suffragette movement in Sweden, and that's really an important difference. They should not be mixed. In every issue of Morgonbris, there is also a group photograph of women from a socialist women's club somewhere in Sweden. The photographs come from Malmö, Luleå, Stockholm, Trollhättan, Eskilstuna, Sundsvall, etc. etc. The images are self-portraits. That is, they are taken by the women themselves. I am drawn to these photographs. I cannot stop watching them. I look at the women, how they stand, their gazes, how they relate to each other, and also to the photographer, and how it's composed and staged. The image does something in the context, and it does something to me in my context. Before I continue, I would like to show you some of these photographs, and I want you to think about what you see. I now would like to tell you what I see. I see collective socialist, feminist, political subjects. I see women who take positions that they were excluded from, positions that belong to men. These women use photography in order to present themselves as political, intellectual subjects that are in relation to other women beyond the traditional borders of the family. The photograph becomes a place to create relations, identity, politics, and solidarity between women. The photographs becomes a collective place for negotiations, where women show that they are together, that they are not single individuals whose demands can be disregarded. It's a group of women that go beyond the few or the few strong individuals. It's a collective struggle. The photographs are, in other words, more than a group photograph. It's a political space for negotiations and struggles. I want to stress again how I am struck by the fact that women address the importance of an alternative tomorrow, and how they see the possibilities despite the impossibilities. But they do not only point to what is, but they use photography in order to make that alternative society possible. So the photograph is not only a representation, but in this case, it's a means to make the collective feminist political subject possible, that even go beyond the local geographical space. Do I read these photographs from my own position and from my own imagination of how it possibly could work? Of course I do. It is about a now, or rather, what is not in a now. But before I end, I actually would like us to take a minute in silence and to think about the victims of last night's attack. Thank you.
I wanted to ask if, because they look pretty dressed up, most of the women, is there a specific class of women they are participating in this community, or is it dressed up because it's a photo to be dressed up? Or
well, I don't know about each and individual woman, of course. That's impossible because it's such a huge, anonymous collective struggle. But from what I know, these are all working class women. But of course, they put on their best Sunday clothes to have the photographs taken. Some of the prominent agitators within the movements came from a bourgeois background, like Kata Dahlström. She was brought up in a kind of a bourgeois family. But most women who were part of the movement, they were working class women and girls. They could, of course, have been some women who were not, but most of them were.
if I may ask, where the archive is taken care of? In Sweden?
Yeah, so all the images, I have found all the images in the Labour Movement Archive here in Stockholm, in the National Labour Movement Archive. However, there are very few originals. Most of the photographs are reproduced from the magazine itself, and all the issues are archived in the Labour Movement Archive. But we have, and I'm sure that one can trace the original photographs. The problem is that no one has really been interested in this material, so it's not really kind of probable, no, it's not archived probably. No, why can't I say the word properly? So it's really difficult. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But there was an archivist who me and Rebecca also worked with, and he was like this amazing man who like went chasing for original photographs. But it's really hard to trace them, even though I'm sure they're there.
And are the posters also kind of where the mothers are? Or?
Yes, the posters are also in the National Labour Movement archive. But the Labour Movement archive, they are dependent on what other organizations hand in to them. So it's also possible that there are other posters, or I know that there are other posters and photographs in the local Labour Movement archive. So some of the posters also come from like the Labour Movement archive in Gävle, Falun, and Malmö. And I'm sure that there are more to be found in other archives around in Sweden. And also every time I show this work or make presentation, if there are women there who are a bit older than we are, maybe in their kind of almost 80s or a bit above, they always come up to me and tell these amazing stories, and they also talk about all the kind of material that their mothers, so they have them, or that they inherited from their mothers and they still keep. Yeah.
Do you know where the posters were installed? It was like a cafe, a street, or?
I actually don't know, but I assume that they were just put up on these kind of notice boards that at that time were not forbidden to do, on notice boards as well as on fences and other places. But I haven't seen any photographs from that. I haven't. I just know that the posters were sent around, and in Morgonbris, the women asked the women to put up the posters. But I haven't seen any documentation of where they were actually put.
Yeah, and is there any record of how it's been perceived by the community? Is there any, were there any resistance to have those notes up? Because I think it was not such a common practice, right, to be feminist or to be...
No, it was not. And I mean, if at least the articles in the magazine, they bear witness to the fact that it was really a tough struggle for women to raise their voices. Also within the social, it wasn't a smooth mobilization. There were a lot of people who were against, or there was a really conflictual, heated discussion on whether, first of all, whether there should be women's clubs at all, or socialist women's clubs, and also there was also a heated discussion on what kind of rights women should have. So that kind of there wasn't. It was quite a tough. 30 really tough years before women were accepted. And also, as you, at least maybe all of you who live here, you know that also there was a heated discussion in the early 20th century where whether it was not, the socialist men thought it was more important that they fight first for universal suffrage for men, and then they could fight, join the struggles with women, because they thought if they would already at the beginning of the 20th century claim that women should also have universal suffrage, that would slow down the process itself. So that was kind of a heated discussion within the movement, what kind of a strategy they should use for that.
Thank you. Maybe we can take one more if they have any questions.
Are there any more questions?
Thank you so much, Petra. That was so generous. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.